What is going on, everyone? It's your guy, Cole Jackson, back with another episode of the Ravens Roundtable here on Two Guys Watching Football, and a very excited episode. We're coming to you in partnership with Baltimore Beatdown. Be sure to check out Baltimore Beatdown on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts, as well as Two Guys Watching Football. Subscribe to both on all platforms. Just subscribe to everything. And I am joined by my two buddies, Spencer Schultz of Baltimore Beatdown and Jake Luke. What is going on, fellas? Let's go. What a day.
Pow, 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 pow. Frank the Tank. Eric DaCosta is Frank the Tank, baby.
Streaking Tank. He's Frank the Tank. He's Nick Papagiorgio. He's throwing bones at the table. He's just making moves left and right. I mean, what else is there to say about the guy at this point?
I'm telling you, man, he was in Twitter Spaces, and now he's cashing checks and taking names, and you'd love to see it.
Do you think so? We know that my meme about him has been circulated within members of the organization, within members of his family. There's no way he has not seen that meme yet.
And it gets stolen. So let's be clear. That meme that Odafe Owe just shared on Twitter was the product of Jake Luke. Like, don't get that mistaken.
I'm gonna start watermarking my memes. No, I would never do that. They're too absurd, and they take me like 2 seconds, so it's whatever. But yeah, a surreal day again after a surreal day before. So it's been a fun couple of ones. We obviously recorded last night the Baltimore Beatdown podcast, which you should check out if you have not already. And we talked a little Marcus Williams. Morgan Moses broke during our recording, obviously, but yeah, the Za'Darius move. That's why you're having us on here, and we appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. And let's get the cap situation out of the way, because I always hit on it at the start of these. I'm just going to throw this up really quick. If you guys were in here earlier when we were talking Morgan Moses, this was the cap situation we were looking at when we got Moses in here. That left the Ravens, after signing Williams, with an estimated year one cap hit of $6 million, plus the 2.58 of Morgan Moses, left them with 4.6. Based on, the big thing here is Za'Darius Smith came in as the 39th ranked edge rusher and 20th ranked outside linebacker, which is absurd. It was an 8.75 AAV. Can earn onto that with incentives, which will add on to future years if he achieves said incentives. But basically, you're looking at a year one cap hit for Za'Darius Smith of $3.5 to $4.5 million. Factor in the rookies, they're out of cap space right now with what they currently have. However, I've shown this slide. I'm not going to belabor it. Showed it about 18 times. Just by factoring in those two signings and restructuring Ronnie Stanley and Marlon Humphrey, that would put them at $18 million minus 4.5 for Za'Darius Smith. They hit those buttons. They do those right restructures. They actually still have some money for other players, which is crazy. So, I want to get your guys' opinion. What did you think of the contract? Were you shocked at the dollar value?
Yeah, it was interesting to see relative to Hassan Reddick. It was interesting to see relative to what we now see in Von Miller, Chandler Jones, some pretty heavy deals. So to me, immediate reaction, it shows that Za'Darius Smith is willing to prove something and loves Baltimore. His kids are here. His home is here. He's been floating around here. His agent's here, all that good stuff. He loves Baltimore. He's willing to prove himself to get that extra money. And that he was comfortable with the Ravens saying, hey, man, we want to pay you as much as we're going to pay you. And we would love to pay you a lot of money if you're really good. And he was like, I'm cool with that. Ultimately, it feels like it was a comfortable situation between two old friends. You know what you're getting. And from the Ravens perspective, they know the man. They know the worker, the professional, the person that goes in and out of the office, so to speak, at the castle every single day. So likewise, Za'Darius Smith knows them. So it just showed a lot of comfort and a lot of trust between the two to work on that deal. Obviously, he only played one regular season game last year, comes back, plays in the divisional round. Kind of shows the opposite of when the Ravens had to, try to rush some guys back from injury and get everything going. It felt like they're like, all right, we got Aaron Rodgers. He'll win us some games. We'll be good to go. Z came back, got a sack in the playoffs, whatever. So just showed comfort between old friends, two old partners, like, yeah, let's do it again. Absolutely. And that he's willing to probably end his career here. So it just shows, again, guys like Pernell McPhee and so many others that have gone astray, come back and want to end their career as Ravens over the years. So I think it speaks to both parties just being comfortable with one another.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was shocked and I wasn't. Sorry to cut you off, but yeah, I was shocked and I wasn't. In the sense that Spenny had heard a little bit that things were starting to move along with him a couple days ago, and for all the points that he made there, I mean, he mentioned that his kids still go to school in the area and kind of live out here and everything, and it feels like there's a familiarity and a comfort factor where it's almost like Green Bay. I think LeBron made this comparison when he went to Miami. It's like college. Like he went and he got that experience, and he went somewhere else and really turned himself into a name brand. Nobody knew who he was really when he signed in Green Bay, because he had really only broken out in that final year of his rookie contract. But now he's an established player. He's going to be 30 this year, and he just feels like a complete version of himself that the Ravens are going to get at least a good couple years of football out of. So feels like just kind of a perfect marriage for both parties. And I mean, honestly, looking at the Williams signing and the way that there appeared to be some kind of devilish cap stuff going on there, it feels like they were ready, willing, and able to manipulate the cap in a way that I think a lot of people were skeptical that they would be willing to do. So here we are.
Yeah, that right there, that last point is what I think is so important. It's been a narrative that we've heard all off season, be it on Twitter, be it Twitter Spaces, whatever it is. Calling EDC cheap, he won't make the big move, devalued positions, et cetera, et cetera. And like I keep saying, it's like he was in there listening, and he just came in to kind of quiet the crowd. And I think that's one of the big takeaways. But getting this done, getting Marcus Williams signed to the 7th highest AAV, Morgan Moses coming in as the 16th highest right tackle, and Za'Darius Smith is the 39th highest edge defender. It's just I'll credit Spencer big time because he said this numerous times. EDC will not get ripped off. It seems to be one of his guiding principles. But I don't know if he's just a master negotiator. I don't know if it's the Lamar Jackson effect. I don't know if it's that players feel like this is where they're going to get a shot at a ring to take a little bit less. I don't know what to tell you, but nonetheless, people are taking very team-friendly deals to be here right now. So, I want to get right into what to expect. And I mean, so some of this is fun. Like I'm going to definitely be going back, watching what he did last year on the Packers last 2 years. But we are familiar with Za'Darius Smith, and that makes this kind of nice because we know a little bit what to expect. But Spencer, I'm going to go to you. What are you expecting from him? How can he be used? What's it going to look like with this edge rusher group?
He really reminds you of Chandler Jones in a lot of ways. I think they're very similar pass rushers. They're really just, they get off quickly. They're big, thick, well-built, massive dudes, and they are explosive out of their stance. They do come in balance. They're not bendy. They can win around the outside a little bit. Chandler Jones definitely can a little more, but they just play through you. There's that video of Chandler Jones. Not to harp on him too much, but there's a video of him just rocking a sled and breaking the sled and then being like, yeah. So they just have devastating hand power, and they also have quick hands that are clean. They aren't fancy. They aren't trying to set you up and do this whole ninja routine. It's a swipe with power and get off and a big, strong frame that is hard to derail. He is a train off the tracks. If he gets inside and starts to win, it's really hard as an offensive lineman that is not a brute, warthog, to be able to move him off of his line when he starts to establish himself. He'll hit you with a quick swim. He'll hit you with a quick two-hand swipe, whatever it is. It's a couple moves. It's really refined. It's really simple. And he just is relentlessly bearing down with power over and over and over again. He's just disruptive. He's a penetrator. And I think it's going to look, like that Aiden Hutchinson role within Mike McDonald's defense, where he's going to be your inside winner. Owe can be your outside winner. Tyus Bowser can be your outside winner. So you've got the inside and the outside track. So quarterback's kind of in that catch-22, unless they're a really supreme athlete and can kind of manipulate things and have that processing and feel comfortable. So ultimately, he's just a power rusher. He's disruptive. You can line him up inside. You can line him up outside. He can win over a guard. When you want to fan your technique out, isolate a one-on-one matchup against a guard. He's quicker than a guard, and he's as strong, if not stronger, than a lot of tackles as well in terms of just fighting. So it's really, he's a relentless pass rusher. The Ravens used him a lot as a sub rusher on third down, and that wouldn't be surprising at all. It takes a lot of pressure off of Tyus Bowser, gives him a lot of time to really ease back in. They're also probably going to draft another edge rusher. They also have Dalen Hayes. Jalen Ferguson's fighting for his life, trying to, continue to prove he's worthy of a second contract in the NFL here or somewhere. So he's a power rusher, man, through and through. And he's just fun. He just has this big, bright smile. He's got, the kind of not diva, but the superstar to him. He wears, the Versace glasses. He's got the big chains, the white tee, the amazing dreads, everything. He just brings and he's also got that deep timbre in his voice ultimately. So he talks the way he rushes the passer. It's deep, it's got bass, and it hits hard.
Spencer might have a man crush, and I'm here for it. But I spent a lot of time watching Hutchinson and Ojabo. I'm writing them up for RedStarBaltimore.com. So I've been pretty well versed in what Mike McDonald does on his defensive line. Talked about it a few times. You can really look at how he used Ojabo and Hutchinson, and you really start to see how he can use Za'Darius Smith and Owe in that same kind of way. Hutchinson was down in 3-point power rusher role pretty much exclusively, and Ojabo, I don't think, put his hand down in the dirt. Now Owe can do that, but he can also do a lot of things off the, as a stand-up Sam. You still got Bowser, you still got Hayes. I think what this move really does is, as much as you can move him inside as a sub package rusher, even in your base, how you're going to use that kind of 4-man line, which I'm expecting more of. It just fits really well in what I think Mike McDonald's used to and what he did last year at Michigan, which gives you a little bit of familiarity. And then you talk about like the way he used the safeties, and now they have Stevens, Williams, and Chart. I think the picture becomes really clear and what Mike McDonald can do. And it's kind of interesting to see some of the skill sets coming in that he's used to. And, Jake, I want to go over to you. Like, how do you see this influencing kind of the draft strategy? Could you see them, is edge rusher still in play at 14 because of his ability to slide inside? How do you look at that?
Guys, I think this puts everything in play. Like what they've done, they went out and they addressed their biggest needs on defense, edge rusher and safety. And you could throw corner in there to an extent, but they have established players that are coming off injury, so I wouldn't say as much. Inside linebacker, they've already made those moves. They made those moves 2 years ago. It's time for those guys to step up. But you look on the other side, you sign a tackle who is probably going to be starting for you. You've got another tackle in the mix who might have starter potential, total wild card. Who knows what's going to happen with Ronnie Stanley? That's still kind of a need, but like I'm comfortable with them doing legitimately anything at this point. I'm comfortable with wide receiver at this point. I heard a question in the Twitter spaces about like Chris Olave. Like at this point, like, and especially if they feel comfortable with Stanley, which we can never really know, right? We can never know what the status is on that, even if he starts playing again. And it's just kind of always going to be a question mark. I want to see a little bit more along the offensive line. Maybe J.C. Treader, maybe Bradley Bozeman coming back, but anything is in play for me for the draft. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I'm all in on J.C. Treader. I think him hitting the market had kind of it's a win-win, because it's either you're going to make a play on J.C. Treader and get the better player between him and Bozeman, or it's going to drive down Bozeman's price tag, which, I mean, it seemingly falls a little bit every hour on the hour. So that's just the benefit in and of itself.
By the way.
What's that?
You really hate that for Joe Linta, who's a favorite on our podcast.
Yes, hate it, quote unquote, hate it. It's funny to kind of see how this is played out, and not just Bozeman, Ricard too. I think both of them chasing, we'll call it versatile money, where they're looking. Ricard's looking to get paid like a blocking tight end. Bozeman, I think, was expecting to get paid a little bit extra for that guard versatility that they were trying to play that card. So it's just interesting. It's going to be interesting how that kind of plays out. But I think you nailed it. I mean, I think Jordan Davis is obviously, he keeps coming up in the chat, so we can kind of dive right into him. And something I said about Jordan Davis is I always call him, he's like the glue guy, right? Like he's going to be that guy. He's going to demand attention from an offensive line. Like you can't leave him single block consistently. You just can't. He'll eat you alive. So his ability to kind of create for other guys is extremely important, as long as those other guys are going to take advantage of those one-on-ones. Adding some of these playmakers on both ends, I think, just opens up the door to that pick making a little bit more sense. Spencer, what do you think about that?
Certainly. I believe that it's going to go cornerback, edge rusher, or an offensive surprise. I don't think center is going to be in play. I think we will see the Ravens answer the center position before the draft. Again, they've done it in emphatic fashion, but they like to draft openly. They like BPA. They like feeling like, oh, we could head in any direction. However the board falls, we get the best impact player. They want to draft for now, for the long term, and everything in between. So I feel that the Za'Darius Smith signing directly impacts necessity. They can feel comfortable in the second and third rounds. I mean, there's some interesting options. Tyreek Smith, your guy, Majay Sanders, you like a lot, Cole. There's Arnold Ebiketie maybe in the second round. There's a lot of different options. So they have three very different players between Bowser, Smith, and Owe. But I will say at the same time, I think edge really still is a necessity to draft. Dalen Hayes, I'm very high on, but just hasn't stayed healthy really much in the last 5 years through his career at Notre Dame. But they've got the big power rusher. They've got the kind of apex athlete that can win, all three ways. That's still working on his craft. They've got the versatile off ball, on ball, developed kind of player rehabbing off an injury. But Smith and Bowser, similar to Humphrey and Peters, are coming off of injury. So need to get insurance for your car there. You go buy yourself that nice, beautiful Ferrari. Better have that insurance. That insurance to me is going to be spending picks on a long, strong corner and another kind of balanced edge rusher, so to speak. So again, last night we were late night going down Twitter threads and talking about playing out different scenarios and just how much fun is it to add Jermaine Johnson to the mix here. And you're just going to ensure that your pass rush, it feels like, is really consistently effective regardless of someone going down.
Yeah, well said. And it opens all the doors. You can just kind of sit back and kind of let your board take over. And that's really what this free agency period is all about. We got 98 people in here right now. Guys, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit subscribe if you guys are back. I'm joined by the Baltimore Beatdown guys. Go check them out on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcast. It's going to be a simulcast. We'll release on their platform too. So yeah, that's just, I think it just creates the possibilities. You can get really fun with some of these edge rush people you bring in, create fun 4-man rushes. It just creates flexibility. And something that I kind of want to hit on, what's the next step? That's kind of, it's funny to think about a couple nights ago where we're kind of like, well, maybe we'll get one of these guys. Za'Darius Smith was in the. It's like, yeah, we'll get Smith, and then maybe make a play on Bozeman coming back, and then everything's just kind of hit the. Where do we go from here? What would you guys like to see come next?
I first want to see, I just want to hear quickly if Odafe Owe understands what Dunkin' Donuts means to Eric DaCosta. That's I've been smiling about that for 20 minutes. Does he get it? Do you get it, Odafe? Do you get it, bro?
Of course he doesn't, but that makes it more funny to me. He has no context on the fact that we have a whole inside joke about that. That's the whole thing. And I and people saying oh yeah, of course, thanks for writing Eric DaCosta's name on there. Yeah, dude, that's kind of part of the joke. But I don't know. It's just the whole thing is absurd to me. But I fucking love it.
It's beautiful. What's next was the question. I've just been smiling here thinking about Dunkin' Donuts, Coca-Cola, and comp picks. But what's next is I think we see. It feels like we're going to see Bradley Bozeman back. It feels like we're going to see Bradley Bozeman back again, just shoring everything up. I feel like I would be remiss to say they wouldn't find a corner somewhere, and maybe it's a 1 year, $2 million guy that's been around the league a little bit, something like that. In that nature, maybe it's a little traderoo, something of the sort. But ultimately, they just want to plug every single hole, draft openly, make sure you sit at 14. It's really the weirdest situation. It feels like it's not the middle of the first round. It's a little better than the middle. They're sitting pretty at 14, 12 through 14. You're all right, there's going to be somebody there. Yeah. At the same time, you feel open to trading up. You feel open to trading back. You have all these picks you could use to trade up if something plays out. You're also comfortable trading back and then using that capital to trade up later, all sorts of circumstances. So I think we see a Bozeman. I think we see maybe a Ricard. And I think we see maybe a veteran corner that's looking to go play some football for a couple $1 million, and a light restructure. Maybe you don't need to restructure all of Marlon Humphrey or something of the sort, but They have 37, I was talking about this on a call earlier. I don't know why I keep saying 1,000 ways to skin the cat. I don't know what that phrase came from, but
I put that in your head. I kept saying you got different ways to skin the cat.
maybe it was you.
I don't even know if that's that's a Canadian dad thing to say, I guess. Like,
no, it's a phrase.
That's definitely a phrase everywhere, I think. But yeah, I think I've used that phrase like 100 million times talking to Voss, because he's just very kind of, and funny enough, he's very happy right now, but he's very much like rigid in his stance on how roster construction should be approached. And was like, well, a lot of ways to skin a cat. He just completely ignores me. So
yeah. And so for me, like when I look at the offensive line, the priority for me was let's make it comfortable for Lamar Jackson. That was always so the only concern I have, and kind of what I want to throw out while I have you guys here. I try and find the right way to say this, because I feel like people aren't going to agree, and that's fine. With the signing of Morgan Moses, him being primarily a right tackle, I see less and less value in Juwan James. Can't play the left side with certainty, in my opinion. And I don't think Morgan Moses can for a long period of time. There's a guy out there, I'll keep harping on his name until we get him. Cornelius Lucas from the Washington Commanders can come in and do that. He's projected to be around $3 million AAV. What do you guys think about cutting James before the 22nd when he gets $500K guaranteed, and letting him go hit the market healthy and ready to go, and team looking for a right tackle, and going after a true swing tackle? Maybe it's Lucas, maybe it's a Billy Turner, someone that if August comes around and we can't, you don't want to put your mid-round, we'll say third, fourth round left tackle that you drafted, you plan on developing. You don't want to put him in week 1 to play because Ronnie Stanley's not ready to go yet. What do you guys think about that? Is that crazy? Do you just go with Macari? What do you think?
I think you roll with, I feel like you're fine to go trot someone out. We just don't know the Ronnie Stanley situation, but you're fine to go maybe put Morgan on the left side for a little bit, Macari on the right side for a little bit if you need a couple weeks. If it's not going to be a couple weeks, I like that kind of solution, Cole, but it's just time to draft a tackle. It's time to draft a tackle. You have to draft a tackle. You've got all those picks. It's a deep tackle class. It's time to get some youth in there, some competition, somebody, green and fresh and ready to roll. They haven't done it in a while. It's time. The double dip, the vet, Morgan Moses. Like you said, Macari can be that beautiful 6-man and go get somebody who does have a little bit of left experience or translates well to the left side. So I think that's where we sit. Our sweet Prince Falele, maybe out of the picture unless he, is so teams view him so specific that he does fall a little bit more so ultimately. So yeah, Ramey here. Ronnie Stanley's ankle owns way too much real estate in my head. The amount of times I've talked about that man's ankle really is probably concerning for mental health. And
so just so everyone knows, Spencer and I think 3 months ago, maybe we were doing the WebMD thing. What's an ankle dislocation? What are the possibilities? Spencer was hitting up, I think it was your mom's friend.
You guys who's like this. I cannot get over it. Like
any orthopedic type surgeon, anything that we're like I'm in relative contact with, like PTs, anyone that I'm in touch with that has some medical experience, is just trying to really understand what a dislocated ankle is, what nerve damage can be, recovery times, timelines, things like that. And what we found is that it varies a lot.
Yeah. And that's kind of, if we're looking at the nerve damage route, which I know that's what it seems like, and that's what some of the cleanup surgery was, that can impact, your plant foot, and that's just going to be uncomfortable. And if he's dealing with that kind of tingly sensation that's never going to go away, it could be as simple as he's done, or it's as simple as he's just going to have to get used to it. And we're just not going to know. It's kind of, it's tough to speculate on these things in a serious manner, but you just got to have options. And that's kind of that's been the story of what we're seeing, is creating contingency plans. So, is there anyone in particular you want to hit on? Some of these mid-round tackles that you think make sense in the Ravens scheme as a left tackle developmental guy? Anyone that really stands out to you?
I think our boy. I mean, he's not looked at as a left tackle, but he's been playing left tackle at Georgia. Jamari Sailor. He's experienced. He wins there. He's fine there. He'll lose, but it's kind of the same deal. I feel like he's a Morgan Moses at left tackle. I feel like he'd be a really good guard. You can play him all over, but He's got experience there. You can have him in the second round, maybe in the third round, maybe work some different scenarios with the way, picks work out, whatever it is. But he's one that sticks out to me. There's also, Rasheed Walker. You and I have talked about 1,000 times. He's someone I'm really comfortable with there. That is a fighter. Again, I'm not a huge petite Frere guy, but heard Zerline peddling some stuff through his dad, whatever. Stuber is an interesting guy. Was he left?
Yeah.
Yeah, Stuber was left. He has inside-outside versatility. The guy that weirds me out is Bernard Raymond, and I really am, floating around between the different national sites and where they have their big boards and stuff. Like, I'm in line with the Draft Network. He's an older prospect. He's still working on functional strength. I don't know. Don't feel like he's a day one guy, but he's another one that can maybe move around a little bit and has left tackle experience. So those are all ones that are tickling me. I'm really privy to Walker and Saylor. I just think they compete really well ultimately, which is a vast statement, but they fight so hard, so consistently. And you see the technique there. You see the good reps there. You see the good hand placement. They understand set points. I think they know their limitations pretty well. So if there's someone that you're like, all right, we're decent with Ronnie, we could use someone who's familiar playing left tackle. It's Walker, it's Saylor. They're not day one guys, but day two, definitely in my opinion for both of them. And they have inside out. Well, Saylor has inside outside versatility. Walker probably can go play right tackle. It feels like too. Yeah. I think just fighters to put in your room.
Yeah, Walker stood out to me in that game against Ojabo. He gave up. They credited him with a sack allowed. It came on. He basically screwed up. He thought it was a play action boot, crossed the formation, ran into the guard beside him. It wasn't Ojabo didn't beat him, and he didn't beat him in that game. It was actually the game where I started to kind of double, guess what to do with Ojabo because Walker's ability to consistently find a set point and just run him around the bend was so impressive. It was, one of those performances reminded me a ton of what we saw a guy like Brown Jr. do for years, where he just, Brown Jr. kind of got this reputation as a mauler, but he was a finesse player. He perfected his ability to find a set point, uses his length, and push you out of the back of the pocket. And that's what you saw from Walker in that game. Don't think they're similar players that don't have the same type of size. They don't have the same type of length or play with the same type of length. But I think calling him a battler makes a ton of sense. Some inconsistencies in his game, and that's likely why he's going to fall. But it does make quite a bit of sense to look at him. Anybody that catches your eye, Jake?
So I've been thinking about this a little bit, and this might be a bit of a galaxy brain take, and I'm certainly not as well-versed the nuances of watching offensive line like you guys are, but a guy who's jumped out to me right from the beginning of the process is Kenyon Green. So one strategy that I would be intrigued by, and I don't think this is likely to happen, you trade back in round one, you get him at a good value spot. You have a starting left guard right away, I think. I think he projects very well there for the league. I think he can play tackle in a pinch too. Maybe not left tackle. He might be a little undersized for that, but he could be a little bit more of a shorter right tackle who is just a monster in the run game. So that's one strategy that I would look at as far as offensive line like draft. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I really just want to see them either make that Shredder move or make that Bozeman move. And then, like Spencer said, it's time to draft a tackle at some point. And whether it's going to be one of these guys you've mentioned or somebody maybe a little bit earlier as a developmental option, like I'm all in on building this wall up in the way that it needs to be built up, in the way that it was neglected last year. It feels like a lot of wrongs are being righted. That's something we've been saying the last couple days here about some of the issues that have gone on in the off seasons the last couple years. And that would be the ultimate righting of a wrong for last year with the way things fell apart because of the offensive line. So it's time. Let's figure this thing out, Eric.
Yeah. No, well said. Then a couple other guys that kind of catch me for being intriguing options. Max Mitchell out of Louisiana Lafayette. Think he projects better in a zone scheme, but I do like some of the pass protection stuff he can do. So if you're bringing him in as a left tackle, I think that makes a lot of sense. And then a guy that I've had a hard time with, and it's kind of tough because it's hard to find North Dakota tape, but got a good look at him at the Senior Bowl. I'd like to. I haven't been able to land on him because his anchor was bugging me, but Matt Willett's go out of North Dakota, and then even a guy like Zach Tom, who I just watched against Jermaine Johnson, and I actually thought those Wake Forest offensive tackles played Jermaine Johnson really well. They had a redshirt freshman starting at right tackle and Zach Tom at left tackle, and he's another versatile guy. It's just sometimes you look at these versatile guys, it's like, are they too much like Patrick McCary? And, am I going to be left in a scenario where I can't get kind of my true tackle? But then you go back, and I was having this conversation with Michael Crawford today because he was watching Morgan Moses going through, and I think people forget it wasn't like an outlier that Patrick McCary was a good right tackle last year. Like, he's an offensive tackle. That's his best position in the National Football League. And he just battles every single rep. So it's, you got to remember, you still have him on the roster. There's nothing about McCary that screams he can't play left tackle. So that's, that option is still on the table.
He was a left tackle at Cal, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Little alligator arms and all. Little T-Rex arms and all. He didn't care. He got out of his stance quick and he got it done. But yeah, so that kind of is. I want to shift now, take a look at what I think is that I'm having a hard time with this one because we know they're going to make another move. They have the cap space to do it. I think center makes a ton of sense. So again, a million ways to skin the cat, or whatever the hell that saying is. But
46 different ways to open the door.
So what do you guys think about interior defensive line? We saw a couple of guys hit the market, like Matt Ioannidis from the Commanders. Apparently we're going to become the Washington Ravens or whatever you want to call it. But what do you guys think of him? What about Calais Campbell coming back? What would you guys kind of do there? And I'm going to throw it out there. What would you do there in the context of this interior defensive line pass rusher group for the draft being not weak, because I think there's guys at the top end that are really solid guys, but I think it falls off quick. So we'll call it shallow, not weak.
In terms of, you said the draft specifically?
Yeah, like are you more inclined, I guess let's ask more direct. Are you more inclined to go after a free agent with it being, pick 45 might come around, and between 14 and 45, all those kind of pass rushers that, Winfrey, Mathis, Jones, all those guys fly off the board?
Yeah, I feel like the Ravens themselves are very privy to veteran defensive linemen. I do think that in the trenches, there's the biggest learning curve, and it's most rare to find an impact player, especially outside, basically right where the Ravens pick. A little bit, maybe a little bit past that. But I will say in the draft, one guy that is later round that does really, really, really intrigue me is Tito Ogbonna out of UCLA. I think he's just a destroyer of worlds, and it translates from the run game to the pass game the same way. He is a little bit more penetrating style player. He can kind of get displaced against double teams, but it's because he's like trying to destroy them at times. So I think as the adage goes, it's a lot easier to get a guy to calm down, relax, tone it down than it is to bring the dog out in him. So was really impressed by him at the Senior Bowl. I think he's a really interesting option, but I mean, it just is tough. It's hard to imagine Travis Jones not going before 46, but he's huge. He's athletic. I don't know what people are talking about if they say that he's like not an effective pass rush. I don't know what they're saying. He's shown it against Clemson. He's shown it against Purdue, Vandy, Massachusetts. He destroyed as a pass rusher. Awesome Senior Bowl, awesome athlete. If he's there at 46, I think that's fantastic. And then the kind of dark cloud is like Devontae Wyatt, Jordan Davis, 13th. If you're talking pass rusher specifically, you're going to lean to Wyatt, but really one of the more polished, I think, interior pass rushers to come out in the last few years. Reminds me of Geno Atkins. I've talked about him a lot today, Devontae Wyatt, but really polished, really quick hands, good feel for sets, establishes himself after, like through the blocker to the quarterback, can dip and maneuver and pursue, hunt down quarterbacks. Like if you're not like a Josh Allen or like a Deshaun Watson or a Lamar, someone like he'll chase you down pretty well. Saw it a lot of times with some mobile dudes. And he's good against the run. He just, he's he's kind of like a better Justin Madubuike, I think. I think Madubuike maybe is just more of a natural run defender, but he has that innate feel as a pass rusher. So Wyatt is really intriguing at 14 to me. And I do think he's going to be a Pro Bowl player like quickly. He also is older as a prospect. He has a lot of reps in his career. So subscribing to the kind of the logic of the Rams in some ways, that they don't like players that are inexperienced, that they think you need a lot of practice time, because in the new CBA, in the new, labor agreement since 2011, rookies don't get as much practice time as they used to. So it's hard to see guys that didn't get the reps, that the potential guys, especially in the first round, get all the time that they need. So Wyatt to me is ready. He's older. He's polished. He's refined technically. He's athletic and really is a sneaky option there.
Yeah, of Davis and Wyatt, like Wyatt is more my guy. And it's weird because we were talking about this yesterday. Like, I feel like Davis is the better player overall, and he's more of a dude and he's going to command more attention. But Wyatt is more of the penetrator. He's more that modern type option. And I feel like he would work better for modern defense. So it's interesting between those two guys. But I mean, if you want to punt on that overall, and you're talking about some of these later guys, like one guy that I've been looking at who might be a little bit of a post-type sleeper at this point. I think he went into this process with a ton of hype behind him, was DeMarvin Leal. And watching him, I feel like he's kind of just a player. Like, he's not a guy, he's not a dude, but he's going to be a pro. Like, he's going to be out there and making tackles. He's going to be in the rotation, and I think he can be a solid starter. And he might be like a day 2 option at this point. I mean, the hype had him, I think, in the first round as the year started, but things have cooled off for him a little bit after maybe a little bit of a disappointing 2021. So he's going to be there hopefully on day 2. So he'd be a guy that I'd be looking at.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are asking about Michael Pierce and Eddie Goldman. And, I kind of think, as much as I think the interior defensive line, like the 3 techs, 5 techs, 2 techs, whatever you want to call them, I think they drop off quick for pass rushing upside. But I kind of like some of these space eaters you can get in this class. You got Noah Ellis at Idaho, Marcon McCall at Kentucky. You got Neil Farrell at LSU.
Big boy.
John Ridgway out of Arkansas is an intriguing guy. So, there's a couple of those guys that I think can come in and do that run stuffing duty. And that's kind of where I would lean towards. And Spencer kind of said it earlier, is more of a veteran corner with that last little couple of million they're going to throw at a guy to come in. And so, whether that's a 1 year, 2.5 prove it deal to Anthony Averett to come back, whether or not it's, an older veteran that may play less reps, like kind of like a Jimmy Smith situation where he's just not going to play a whole lot, but hopefully can stay healthy, be durable for you, and maybe wants to come and contend for a ring with some of the recent acquisitions. I think that's where I'd take that money versus one of the run stuffers. I think there's a couple of those guys in this class that can do that for you, and that can really shape what you do in free agency. So I guess overall, what I'm trying to get at is, I wouldn't say pigeonhole yourself to where strengths and weaknesses lie in your draft class, but I think that's got to be back of mind for you as you're kind of considering things moving forward.
Definitely. And one guy in the draft class I did want to talk about as well as Neil Farrell. Had a really nice Senior Bowl, really productive season in 2021. He's a penetrating nose. He doesn't have great length or anything, but it's a penetrating nose. So another sneaky option there, round 3, round 4. So I see some depth there. There's different body types, different depths. Very exciting. But I just, overall, I think it's time to avoid players that are one-dimensional, and whatever that is, it can mean anything on both sides of the football. Avoid significant spends in terms of guys that can, really only play on third down, guys that can really only play on first down, guys that can, you get the point. So happy to see DaCosta investing in guys in free agency that will play in every situation. I think that's what they need more of. That's what they need to draft. That's what they need to aim to. Feels like they're coming out of their niche phase where, they were zagging and everyone was zigging and it was cool. Ricard, Boyle, Andrews, Hurst, all that stuff was awesome at the time, but it kind of just, it's hard to sustain over a long period of time and keep doing that. Feels like they hit the right sauce in that direction and hit on the right guys to allow them to do that, but to replicate it feels like would be quite tedious. So bring balance in all things.
Absolutely. And Jake, do you want to give us a couple, I think we'll wrap up here. A couple of, what do you want to see next? What are you going to wake up to tomorrow and see? What are you thinking?
I mean, hopefully something along that interior offensive line, whether it is a guard. I mean, I'm not totally sure what the options are there because I don't know about you guys. I'm kind of a little so-so on Ben Cleveland right now. So I'm a little concerned about that position. And then obviously the two center options that everyone is talking about with Shredder or Bozeman, that would be the next one that I would be looking at. But I mean, the way that I look at it is with the way the corner is a need. I know James Bradbury is probably not going to get released. I think people were saying, so he might not be an option, but there might be some options out there to just grab some very mid-level corner depth at a cheap, a la the Bengals doing so with a guy like Mike Hilton last year. And that worked out very well for them, obviously. So maybe do something like that and just get sort of a depth guy in there behind Peters and Marlin and just kind of get ready for the draft, man. It feels like we're already ready to look ahead to the draft, which is great. And, you know, there's still moves to be made potentially, and hopefully they are going to be because it's kind of turning into F that salary cap with Eric DeCosta right now. He's just finding ways around it in ways like I mentioned that people didn't think he was capable of doing or didn't want to do necessarily. So I don't know, man. Whatever the moves are to be made, I'm excited to see them because I don't think 2 days ago I would have expected that we would be recording, you know, more than once this week. And here we are, I think, on our second night in a row. And it's been a ton of fun. So keep the fun moving, Eric DeCosta.
Love it. Love it. And yeah, no, corner center seemed to be kind of the focus, you know, maybe a little bit of interior defensive line. You know, we'll call this episode different ways to skin a cat, 564 ways to open a drawer, 564 smart, sharpest knives in the drawer. Okay, I'm running the steam there. You know, but we'll wrap up on that. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Hit the like button, hit subscribe. Be sure to check out Baltimore Beatdown. This will be simulcast over there. Huge thank you to Spencer and Jake. We've been planning to do this for a while. I get Spencer on here all the time, constantly banging him for an appearance to get him on here and break down some film. But Jake, man, it was great to have you on here too. And I hope you guys are doing well. And yeah, I mean, thank God March Madness starts because getting us through April is going to be a drag from March 8th when the Natty happens until the draft at the end. But
wrong, baby. This is the best time of the year. Speculation draft season. This is the good stuff.
Golf season, baby.
Golf season, man. Golf season for Cole is until May with this Canadian weather. It kills me. We got out on the course last year on March 30th, and that was an absolute outlier. So it can be as late as mid-April until the courses open up here with the snow coming off the ground. So pray for early spring for me because I'm ready to hit my back's feeling better and I'm ready to hit some balls out there.
Ready for you to get out there and hit some bombs, you hoser.
Exactly. That's all we have for you guys today. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. Peace out, everyone.